nominations en bloc, calendar numbers 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, and 52, that the nominations be confirmed en bloc, the motions to reconsider be considered made and laid upon the table with no intervening action or debate, that no further motions be in order to any of the nominations, and that the President be immediately notified of the Senate's action and the Senate then resume legislative session.
Is there objection?
Mr. President, reserving the right to object.
Senator from Alabama.
Thank you. I object, and I'll give the reasons why. I'm happy to explain all the holds on my nominations, and I'm glad to see my colleague, the Senator from Ohio, who will be here in just a moment to support these efforts. Yeah, my friend from Colorado says this hold is unprecedented. It's not unprecedented at all. In fact, there's a very recent precedent. Just a couple of years ago, the junior senator from Illinois, a Democrat, held more than 1,000 military nominations. The reason she held them was over one single officer she wanted promoted. My colleague from Colorado threatened to do the same thing just a few weeks ago. Mr. President, I'd ask unanimous consent to enter into the record a news article from January 24th.
Without objection.
Thank you. The headline reads, Colorado Democrat threatens to hold Pentagon nominees over Space Command headquarters. That Colorado Democrat happens to be my colleague opposite me as we speak. He has given us a motion and opinion. Let's talk about the facts. Last summer, the Supreme Court returned the decision to regulate abortion to the states. In response, the Department of Defense claimed that this was a threat to the readiness of our armed forces. They said this without any evidence at all. On July the 15th of last year, Republican members of the Armed Services Committee asked Secretary Austin how the department came to this conclusion. It wasn't until November that the department scheduled a briefing with Senate offices to give us some answers. However, minutes before the briefing was scheduled to begin, the department canceled. On December the 5th, 2022, I sent a letter to Secretary Austin letting him know I would hold all civilian and general and flag officer nominees until we got some answers. Less than 24 hours later, we got answers. The answers were disturbing. We learned the Pentagon intended to go well beyond what was been authorized and has been authorized by Congress. Federal law only allows the military to provide abortions in three very narrow circumstances: rape, incest, and threat to the life of the mother. Yet the Biden administration has turned the DoD into an abortion travel agency. They did it by using just a memo. The Biden administration wants abortion on demand for not just those enlisted in our military, but their family members as well. This would expand the policy to millions of people. Now, taxpayers, the American taxpayers, are on the hook to cover non-chargeable paid time off and travel costs for abortions for our military and their families. Again, nobody voted for this. This goes beyond the law. We've still got a Constitution in this country to go by, and the Constitution is clear. Congress makes the laws. The executive branch enforces the laws. Secretary Austin seems to think he can make a change in the law without going through Congress. It would be irresponsible for the United States Senate to allow an administration to walk all over the legislative branch. Secretary Austin cannot change the law by a memo. Congress cannot be replaced by a post on the Department of Defense website. In December, I warned the department that I would hold their nominees if they tried to force abortion on demand on our military, and they did it anyway. The department knew what the consequences would be. It was clear. This was their choice. I will continue to hold these nominees until the Department of Defense follows the law or Congress changes the law. In the meantime, we should do our job and vote. If these nominees are so important to the Democrats, then the Democrat leader can find time to get them on the floor. Frankly, I wish Democrats were this concerned about our enlisted service members. We've got a recruiting crisis in this country. The Army missed its recruiting goal by 15,000 last year. That's an entire division. One of the causes of this crisis is the policies of the Biden administration. At yesterday's Armed Services hearing, I talked about the Navy's training materials. Many of these materials denigrated religious Americans who are the majority of this country. Democrats seem a lot more worried about these nominations than about our recruitment, the people who actually fight wars. Democrats are so worried about the nominations, then they can bring them up for a vote. We have more than enough time to vote on nominees. We voted on plenty of nominees this year. That's about the only thing the leader has let us do so far. I will continue to come down here and lay out the facts for as long as my colleague from Colorado wants to. We talked about this less than a month ago. The facts have not changed. My position has not changed, and so I reserve the right to object. I object.
The objection is heard.
Mr. President.
Senator from Colorado.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate very much the senator from Alabama coming back down here, and I'm sorry for inconveniencing him, but I think that we have had a difference of opinion about this that really matters and is real. First of all, I appreciate the fact that he's read a rare headline about my work here, but he mischaracterized what I did, which is to hold only 2 civilian nominees of the Defense Department. 2 civilian nominees. He has held every single, all flag officers, promotions of uniformed flag officers from the Department of Defense. That has not happened before in the history of the United States Senate since 1789, and certainly my hold of 2 civilians is not precedent for what he's doing. He talks about how the Defense Department can't change the rules on its own. Nobody said the Defense Department changed the rules on its own. I didn't see him come down here when the Defense Department said they'd pay for travel for LASIK. I didn't see him come down here and complain when they said they would pay for travel for bunions. That's not in the statute either. That's not our responsibility. That's DoD's responsibility, and DoD, with a set of reasonable rules, is trying to deal with the aftermath of Dobbs, trying to help women in uniform access care. And I believe that the aftermath of Dobbs has created a real threat to our national security and to our readiness. Women are the fastest growing population in the military. The senator from Alabama said it exactly right. They are having huge recruiting challenges. It is very hard for me to see how American women that have had access for 50 years to a fundamental constitutional right have now had it stripped away by the Supreme Court of the United States are going to enlist if they have no way to know whether or not they're going to have access to reproductive care. And that's not me saying it. The last time the senator from Alabama and I, my friend, were on the floor, he said this would be thousands of people that would be affected by this. Thousands and thousands. That is a readiness issue. When people, as the senator from Alabama knows very well, when people volunteer to serve in our armed forces, they don't get to decide where they're going to serve. But before Dobbs, they had at least some assurance that their fundamental rights would be protected, that their right to reproductive health care or to abortion would be protected. And not anymore, because the Supreme Court has ripped that right away. And after Dobbs, we've seen the effect of that. 18 states have banned abortion. 18 states, Mr. President, have banned abortion. 9 even in cases of rape and incest. They've passed or they've introduced restrictions to travel. Alabama doesn't have exceptions for rape and incest. And a doctor can go to prison in Alabama for 99 years if they perform an abortion. There are even state legislatures down there that are trying to use chemical endangerment statutes that are meant to deal with methamphetamines to charge women that have accessed abortion. In Texas, my friends, in Texas, there are $10,000 bounties that are being put out there to try to stop friends and neighbors from driving their loved ones to the clinic. And Florida is trying to ban abortion in 6 weeks. 1 in 3 women in this country who are pregnant don't know they're pregnant in 6 weeks. I don't know if the governor of Florida understands that. Or maybe he does understand it. I don't know which is worse. And after Dobbs, it's not hard to see why women might think twice about signing up. Rand has said that there's going to be more attrition, that it's going to hurt readiness. And to help address these challenges, the Pentagon announced 3 policies. A travel allowance, Mr. President, so that people could actually have help being paid to go from a state they hadn't asked to go to one where they could have access to care. Absence without leave, so they wouldn't be charged. You know, their paid leave to be able to address something that other people in the military don't have to address, and more time to notify their commanding officers of what happened. That's it. Those are the 3 things. And those policies are so unreasonable in the mind of the senator from Alabama that he's done something that no senator has ever done, which is how to put a blanket hold on all flag officers and their promotion in the Department of Defense. And that's just the 3 modest things. That has nothing to do with basing. It has nothing to do with how DoD is going to address Dobbs over in the future. I don't think that people in these states who have not volunteered to be in these states should have to be subject to the draconian laws of those states. And to not have the opportunity, if they want to have the opportunity, to travel and have their travel paid for, just as we do with LASIK surgery. That's what he calls an abortion travel agency, the senator from Alabama. Again, we didn't hear about this when it was about LASIK. We didn't hear about it when it was about bunions. We heard about it when it was about a 50-year fundamental right on behalf of the American people. And this hurts our security. It hurts our readiness at a time when Russia and China are combining together. So I beg on the senator from Alabama to relent. We can have a disagreement we will have a disagreement. I come from a state that was one of the first state in America to codify a woman's right to choose before Roe versus Wade was decided. I come from a state that was the first state in America to ratify a woman's right to choose in the wake of the Dobbs decision. And he comes from a state that views it very differently. I respect his position on this just like I do everybody in America who disagrees with my position on this. What I don't respect is the idea that we can't move past this blanket hold on every single flag officer that's up for promotion just because the senator doesn't agree with the majority position that is reflected in the Department of Defense's modest rules. I know, Mr. President, that the vote is coming, and I at this point will relent and yield the floor, and I will just say to my friend from Alabama, I wish him luck, and I wish Alabama luck tomorrow night, and I look forward to the next time that we're here addressing this fundamental disagreement, because I believe the American people are staggered by what the Dobbs court has done. I believe the American people are staggered by what has happened because an originalist majority of the Supreme Court, something that was unimaginable when I was graduating from law school not that many years ago, has now decided if it's not a right in 1848, it's not a right in the United States of America today. I don't believe that's where the American people are, and I don't believe that's where the Department of Defense is. Thank you, Mr. President. I yield the floor.